What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. It's true, the GameStop apocalypse is now among us. In 2025, hundreds of game stores closed down, and it seems like the trend is going to continue into 2026. We are only a week or two into 2026, and there's already stores closing down in my local area. I haven't been to a GameStop in years. The last time I went into a GameStop, what I remember, they were all still just selling video games. That was it. So I haven't been to one in a long time. You know, if you're new to my channel, I just started my retro video game journey. Hopefully it's not going to be a struggle to be able to collect a few games. It seems like I might have been, a little late to the party. I don't know, but we're giving it a shot anyway, just because I love retro video games. So today I'm going to be visiting two retro video game GameStops in my local area. I want to get out there before they close down and see what it's all about, check out the experience. I'm hoping that they have some decent finds that I can pick up and maybe add to my collection and play for you guys down the road. So follow me on this journey. I'm going to do two GameStops in my local area. A lot of them, there's actually four. I think there's still four open, but they're super spread apart. I don't think I'm gonna have time to do all of them, but two for sure. And I'm also going to go to one of the highest rated game store in my local area. I think it's rated at a 4.9. There's some really shitty game stores in my local area. This one's rated at a 4.9. There's some other ones that are terrible. So let's get out there. Let's check these GameStops out and see what they're all about these days. All right, guys, so we are headed to our first GameStop location. This one kind of has a special place in my heart. This is where I used to buy all of my games when I was in high school. So what I'm going to be looking for today is, of course, Super Nintendo games, but I also want to see if they have NES, N64, and possibly some Switch games. So I know Switch isn't retro, but I still have a Switch, and if they have some games that I've been wanting, I might pick those up. So we'll see. Let's see what they got. Geez, this GameStop has seen better days.
What are we here for today, Dad? You can.
It's pretty So I just finished up with that GameStop, and holy crap, man. All I can say is what a total letdown. I walked in there and there is no lettering on, there is no signage or anything that says that this store is retro, but online it said plain as day. I typed in my zip code. It said that this was a retro store location. It says that there's two in my area within 30 square miles. But I went in there, I looked around a little bit. I noticed that there wasn't any games at all that were retro related for anything. I think there was some Nintendo DS games, but nothing as far as NES, Super Nintendo, or anything like that. And I asked the guy, he said that this location is actually not a retro store location anymore. So I don't know if GameStop is closing the retro store locations down or rebranding them to anything else, but he was like, yeah, this is actually considered a card shop now. It's not even considered a freaking game location. It's considered a trading card shop. Now, they have games there. They have games that you can buy for PS5, as you can see, PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch 2 now, but he said this is going to be one of their card stores. I never thought GameStop would give into that and do that, but I guess they have to do to survive. So we're not going to go to a GameStop for this next one. We're going to go to that really good rated game store that I found online. So let's go check that one out and see if they actually have some retro games. This kind of sucks so far. All right, we're at the second game store. This one actually looks really promising. They have some retro looking controllers on the windows, some really good, actually, retro branding. A lot better than the GameStop before. So let's go check it out. It's a good sign.
For about 48.5, so that's pretty much on point.
Oh yeah.
The normal one is what, maybe $5-10 less.
Yeah. No, that's the faded one.
You could look different on the bottom.
All right, we made it to the second GameStop, and I got another bad feeling about this one, guys. You know, looking over there, there's no branding for retro gaming. It's all Nintendo Switch 2 stuff again. So I hope this isn't a card store, a trading card store. Let's go check it out. Let's go see what they got. They ripped the controller from the wall. Tried to open it.
The one we got one just for Monday.
5 minutes after. I really got into them when they came out. Cool.
Aaron,
Yes.
local lock.
Right here. What kind of stuff?
What? Nothing. No. Why?
I just finished up at GameStop number 2. Oh, man. GameStop is falling apart. They are crashing and burning. They had a little bit of selection of retro games, but I was nowhere near what they had at the previous store. It's like they didn't even really care about the retro section. They cared more about the card games. So let's go back to the house and talk about it. So I think I understand why GameStop stores are failing, and I'm glad I went to that independent game store when I was out there. It was called Game Over Games, Game Over Video Games. I'm glad I got a different taste of another game store just to, get a different perspective going here. But in order to research these GameStops, you can go online, you can go to the GameStop website and research their retro game stores. And I looked up the game stores, and both of them were identified as retro game stores in my local area. And upon going to both, like I said, the first one didn't have any retro games available at all. And they said to me that it was going to be a card store with some video games being sold kind of in the background, per se. But the second one I went to, they didn't have any games as well. I mean, they had a little bit of games in the back left hand corner. They had a little bit of Nintendo. They had a little bit of Nintendo, of course, regular Nintendo. I think they had some N64, very little N64 on the bottom, and maybe some Game Boy games. But that was it. The rest of the store was trading cards, and of course, your newer systems. Nintendo Switch 2, the PS5, the Xbox, and they might have had some PS4 games on there as well. But yeah, there really weren't any games at all whatsoever. And I really don't understand that, especially when you're identifying yourself as a retro store. It was almost like they didn't care about the retro aspect of the store at all. There was no marketing at all outside in the front windows for both stores. Everything was geared toward the Nintendo Switch 2. Hey, we have Nintendo Switches, which they did have. They did have Nintendo Switch 2s inside that you could purchase. But it was just a big downer. I don't think I'll ever go into another GameStop store ever again. I think I'm just going to support these independent game stores. It's almost like GameStop is just really trying to figure out who they are as a game store. It's like they don't know who they want to be anymore. I know major companies like GameStop, go through changes over time and trying to adapt to the market and what the consumers want. But I mean, when you're selling, when a quarter of your store or 30% of your store is trading cards, 10% of your store is retro games, and the rest of it is toys and a little bit of video games, I think you're going to struggle because you have absolutely no identity. I think that's why they're crashing and burning, because they don't know who they want to be. Versus a store like Game Over Games that I went to, they had a true, I knew right off the bat who they wanted to be and what the store was all about. Right when you walk in the front, they had two signs, one for one that was marketed towards Super Nintendo games, one that was marketed towards Nintendo games. So right off the bat, I had a very good feeling that I was walking into a store that was all about retro video games. And they were. As soon as you go in there, right off the bat in the front case, they had DS, they had regular Game Boy, they had Game Boy Advance, and they had a huge selection of everything. Once you walk to the back, they had three separate pillars or whatever those lighted boxes are. First had your Atari, then they had your Nintendo, and then they had your Super Nintendo, and it went all the way back to the back. This was a dedicated retro shop, and it was freaking awesome. It was also jam-packed with people. There was a lot of people in there compared to GameStop. There was not very many people in the GameStop store at all. In this retro store, I would say everyone was probably about my age to, maybe 10 years younger than me. Maybe I saw someone that was probably a little bit older than me, but you could tell that a lot of them loved video games. They were collectors. They were there to possibly find, some games for their collection. I heard one guy talking about how he was trying to collect, all the games for NES, 600 something games he was trying to collect. So he seemed like he was a regular in the store. The manager or the owner of the store that was there, he was awesome, man. He was a really cool guy. He was very knowledgeable about the games. You could tell he played the games as well, and he just had a blast at his job, and he loved what he did. They had everything under the sun there. They even had a Super Famicom from Japan, which I was not expecting, and Famicom games. And he said that he got like 200 games in for the Sega Saturn that day. He's always having a revolving inventory and having people come in because I think he has that defined identity. And he's not GameStop, obviously. So let's talk about Game Over Games and what I got, because I'm obviously not going to GameStop unless they figure something out in the near future and actually market themselves online and tell the truth what their stores are all about. But let's talk about Game Over Games a little bit and what I got. I ended up getting I got Super Mario 2 for the NES. And, of the three Super Marios on the NES, this is probably the least favorite for a lot of people. Some of you might like this game, but I do not have this game for my collection, and that's the reason why I picked it up. I got Super Mario 1. I think I have 2 copies of Super Mario 1 and Super Mario 3, but I had to round out the collection with this one. I bought it for $24.99 from Game Over Games, and which I think is probably a little bit on the high end. I did look on eBay to see how much that it was going to cost if I bought it on eBay, but I'm always down to be able to support the little guy, If we want retro video game stores to stay in business, we have to be willing to pay a little more for video games in order to support these stores, which I'm totally cool with. Don't be like a scalper, don't be like a freaking reseller, and try and bargain the guy down a little bit. This isn't Mexico, you know what I'm saying? So just whatever's on there, pay it, and just know that you're supporting a business that needs you to be able to be there. So Yeah, I got this. I did ask him. I asked him straight up. I said, "Is it tested?" He said yes. I asked him about the battery inspections. He said that they do not typically inspect the batteries on the less expensive games, which, you know, I get that, I guess. I mean, it would take a lot of time. If you're having a lot of inventory like he is, it would take a lot of time to inspect every game, right? But he cleaned the game for me before I bought it. He cleaned the case of it. He cleaned the terminals of it using isopropyl alcohol. I was able to test it. I was able to play it. And I was happy with that. One thing to point out is at this game store, Game Over Games, they do have a really generous return policy. The return policy was 14 days. So on any used games that you buy, if there's any defects or you start having issues within that 14-day time period, you can take it back for a full refund. So I think that's about it for me. I hate to say it, guys, but I don't think I'm going to be shopping in GameStop anymore, at least at the physical stores. I might go online if they have some good deals to see what kind of retro stuff they have, but I really don't see the value right now in going to GameStop again. There just really wasn't any games, much of a selection at all in those retro game stores. What do you guys think? Have you had similar experiences at GameStop? If you're in the North Texas area, where are you like actually shopping for games now? Maybe I'm kind of thinking the best place to go shop is these local stores, these mom and pops, these smaller game stores that aren't affiliated with like a corporation or national chains. So, and maybe go to garage sales or even estate sales. I haven't gone to estate sales, but that might be a good spot to go for video games. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the next one. Happy gaming.